the Doctoring Differently podcast. I'm Dr. Naomi Lawrence-Reid, a pediatrician, your host, and creator of the Doctoring Differently digital course that teaches physicians of all specialties how to find and explore flexible, lucrative careers beyond full-time clinical medicine. For more information, visit doctoringdifferently.com. Today, I'm talking with Dr. Reema Gupta Sethi, an emergency medicine physician and the founder of Rejuvenate and Glow Skincare and the new owner of Aura Health and Spa, a full-service aesthetics practice in Plymouth, Michigan. Dr. Sethi attended Wayne State University School of Medicine, and she completed emergency medicine residency at the University of Illinois at Chicago. I'm so excited about this conversation and all of the guests I'll have on the podcast. Subscribe to this podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And subscribe to the Doctoring Differently YouTube channel to watch every episode on YouTube. And now, my conversation with Dr. Reema Gupta Sethi. I'm very excited for my guest today. I have Dr. Reema Sethi with me. Dr. Sethi is a very special guest because she was an alumni of the Doctoring Differently course a few years ago, and I have been excited to watch her excel and succeed in a field outside of full-time clinical medicine. So welcome, Dr. Sethi. Why don't you start with telling me what you're doing, what you're up to now, and what your clinical and non-clinical life looks like?
Yeah. So thank you first for having me here. I'm really excited and feel very honored. I have been an emergency room physician for about 16 years. And more recently, I have ventured into the world of aesthetics. And so it's been an exciting roller coaster transition for me. Still working a little bit clinically in the ER and working a lot in the med spa, trying to get this thing off the ground. So
that is wonderful. Congratulations. I'll go back and we'll start with the emergency medicine part. So many of our viewers are still full-time clinical, full-time academic. You know, they're working in their chosen specialty, but curious about maybe the world outside of full-time clinical medicine. So we'll get into kind of more of how you've navigated the aesthetics and med spa world. But when you were in medical school, what drew you to emergency medicine, your initial path, I'll say?
I went into medicine initially because my mom became a nurse while my sister and I were growing up. And so we saw her go through nursing school and developed a fascination with the human body. And then when I got into medical school, I found myself just liking everything. I wanted, when I went to neuro, I wanted to be a neurologist, and I thought I was going to be a neurologist. And then I realized that there was a lot of diagnosing and not a lot of fixing, because it's like, you had a stroke. I'm sorry. Obviously there's a lot more to neurology than that, but there were downsides that I started to see that I had not seen before. And then pediatrics, it was really interesting to me. I love kids. And then I realized that had to deal with parents. I was like, oh,
yes, you do.
So emergency medicine just kind of, I got a little bit of everything. And I like adrenaline, and I like the fast life, and I like chaos. And so I think it had a little bit of everything. I had to wait till fourth year to take that rotation, as I think many medical schools do. And I was glad that I put all my eggs in that basket, and I was like, I hope I love it. And I did.
Oh, great.
And I do, and I still do.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, we'll definitely touch on your continued love with emergency medicine. So you moved on to doing your residency in Chicago. So how was your residency experience in emergency medicine? Did you see yourself pursuing a career in full-time clinical or academic emergency medicine based on your residency experience?
Yeah, I was all in. I loved it. I loved my experience in Chicago. I had just moved from Michigan, and so I was also exploring this new wonderful city. I had 3 hospitals that I worked in Chicago, so I got to see a little bit of different socioeconomic classes, different hospital types. I had a university-based hospital. We had another hospital in the south side of Chicago, and then another hospital in Lincoln Park. So I was seeing a lot and loving every minute of it. I made lifelong friends in my residency program that I still talk to, almost every day.
Great.
Via text messages.
Sure.
And so it was a great experience. I was all in. I mean, emergency medicine was where it was at for me.
Understood. Okay. So tell me about your first attending job after residency. What did that look like? Where did you go?
I stayed in Chicago. I ended up in the burbs in Maywood, Illinois. I worked at Loyola. I was there for about, I want to say 7 or 8 years. Loved it. It was a different type of hospital because it was in the suburbs. And I was learning from my colleagues. It was a well-established program. We didn't have any residents at the time. They do have a residency now. But that was something that I was, really interested in. So it was a program where that was going to happen in the future. So that's what kind of drew me there. It didn't happen while I was there, but it happened now. So happy for them. But it was a great family. It was a great first job. There was a lot of learning in that first 1 year, especially,
Sure. Yeah.
But I probably, had we not left Chicago, I would probably still be there. I loved that job.
Okay. I love to hear it. That's why we went into medicine often. Of course, I teach about the many different things we can do, but so many of us went into medicine for that clinical aspect, and we truly do enjoy it. So I'm very glad to hear you enjoyed residency, enjoyed your first attending job, it sounds like, but I think you're alluding to the fact that you had to move out of Chicago or out of the area to your next location. Tell me about that.
So my husband got a job in Atlanta in like 2015 or something. And at that time we had a kid. We had our first child. She's 10 now. Oh. And so we had her in Chicago. And then we moved when she was about 15 months. So when I moved to Atlanta, I got a job, but it was very temporary because I just had my second kid as soon as we moved there. I took some time off. I got a job, and then we ended up moving again.
Okay.
So that job was like a 3-month stint.
Okay.
Again, it was a good job. I liked it. But we ended up moving to Michigan. I got pregnant again. So I had my third kid in Michigan, and I did not start working in Michigan until 2017.
Okay. I mean, you were busy. Good for you.
It was a busy few years.
All right. Understood. Okay. So you rejoined maybe I don't know if you were full-time at that point in 2017. Did you go full-time or part-time back to emergency medicine?
I went full-time. I had 3 young kids. They were 3 and under. It was a new job for me. It was 15 minutes away from my house. It's the job I'm still currently in.
Understood.
Different dynamic. The hospital is located in an elderly an elderly city. So there's a lot of nursing homes in the area, a lot of EMS traffic, but it's nursing home EMS traffic and not, gunshots and car accidents and things. So I went back full time, and then I think within a year or two, I remember approaching my medical director and being like, I can't, this is too much,
Sure.
I need to cut back. I want to be with my kids. So I went to part-time. It wasn't half-time, but probably like 70, 80%. And that's where I really found my balance for the good, for a good couple of years.
Great. And congratulations on even taking that step to pull back and go down on the full-time clinical. So many physicians want to do it, don't think they can do it, are told that they're not able to do it, and so that's always a good first step is pulling down on full-time clinical work, and then kind of figuring things out. Obviously, it sounds like you had a busy life at home, so there was a real motivation to do so. Okay, so you were around 70, 80% clinical. So I guess this is the part where, when did you start being curious and think and look outside of your emergency medicine job and think, okay, well, maybe there's something more to my physician career? What was that like? Was there a final straw, or was it a natural curiosity that kind of bubbled up?
So I remember this very vividly. So I took your course in January of 2022. It was my husband's birthday, so I remember it. And the few weeks leading up to that, I had found you on Facebook, and I think I just saw a Facebook ad or something, and I clicked on it. But it came at like such an opportune time because I knew at that point in my career that I needed something to fill my bucket. Like emergency medicine was just not filling my bucket anymore. And I will get like a little emotional here because it's a career that like was defined me for so long. And it was so hard to like step away and be like, I can't believe I'm cracking up here. It was very hard to step away and not let it define me. And I remember talking to you on a discovery call and being like, okay, well, this woman is telling me that I can do it. I can do other things and I don't need to be defined by being an emergency medicine physician. And I think it was that phone call that really clicked. And I was just like, okay, let's see what this woman has to say. So I signed up for your course, and I think the biggest thing I learned was that I was worth more. And, you know, it doesn't hurt to explore other things. I'm never closing the door to emergency medicine. Right. I just started exploring other things, and one thing led to the other, and here we are. But I started with a lot of different things. Everything that you talked to us about, I explored. Like, you told me to get headshots, I got headshots. You told me to get on LinkedIn, I got on LinkedIn. It was like very boom, boom, boom. Like, I listened to you.
Thank you. The best doctors make the best students. We're really good at it. And you all do your assignments. Those were, you just named, of course, some of the early assignments in the course that are very tangible and simple to do. But I do love my physician students are right on it. And you were an exemplary student. And I do remember our very first session of that cohort, and you were in your living room and you did say, it's my husband's birthday, and he like waved from behind, and I was like, it'll be worth it. Thank you for giving, she's taking an hour from your birthday, but this will be very worth it. So I still do actually remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad. Well, thank you. That was a good segue into that portion. So you took the course, you took the Doctoring Differently course in January of 2022. It was at the time a 6-week long, weekly course in 6 weeks. So what were your first steps? And as you know, I am a big proponent of next best steps. We look at the world, exploring the world of outside of clinical medicine as a leap. So many physicians say to me, I'm scared to take the leap. It's a big, big thing. And I understand in our minds it certainly is, but I hope to kind of change the conversation around that and make it a step. And it can be a couple of steps, but it's one step at a time. So what were your initial steps, say, in the spring of 2022?
So I really appreciate the way you laid out the next best step, because it is very overwhelming to think that I'm going to step out of this, at the time, 14-year career that I had and do something different. So just getting the headshots was such a big deal to me, and like getting on LinkedIn. And another thing that you were a big proponent of was just talking to everyone, reaching out. And that's what I started doing. That was my big step. I started talking to everyone and seeing what other people were doing. People, in entirely different things that I probably would never entertain. So I started reaching out on LinkedIn. I think I took my first aesthetics course in February or March of 22. It was really quick. And then I started exploring some medical legal stuff. I connected with one of your former students that was doing Suboxone prescribing via telehealth.
I remember.
So the first thing that kind of came into fruition was the telehealth Suboxone prescribing, because it was very aligned with what I do in the ER. We were already starting to prescribe it in the ER. Basically, it aligned with the fact that I just want to help people. And I felt like Suboxone prescribing was, while it wasn't as lucrative as I needed it to be in where I was in life, I found it very rewarding. It was, just talking to people in the community that are holding 2-3 jobs, and at some point in their life they got addicted to opiates, and they can't make it to their doctor's appointment every month. So I have a 10-minute visit with you. I learn a lot in 10 minutes about these people. It was exciting and really fun for me. It didn't pan out because it wasn't going to work out. I wasn't getting enough visits and things like that, but it was a breath of fresh air for me. Like, I got to see that I could do something else.
I thank you for saying that. You said it perfectly, in that your experience is my experience and the experience of so many physicians. Like, it was a next best step. No, you're not still there, but it was an important step, and it taught you that, hey, my residency program, my medical school, my training didn't necessarily hand this opportunity to me or teach me that I could do this different facet of medicine, but you networked, you talked to another doctor, which I love always to hear. I think that we are so isolated and competitive with each other, and there certainly is not enough of this collaboration, particularly around opportunities outside of full-time clinical medicine. So I love that you did that. And then you did that thing. You took that first step. You tried something new. We can always try something new. And so how long did you stay doing that before you kind of moved to the next thing?
I want to say it was always in the background. I just continued to do, whenever I had time, I'd sign up for a shift.
Yes.
I was still working in the ER, that 70-80%. Okay. And so whenever I had, the kids were at school and I had some time, I signed up for a shift and I would do it. But I was also doing other things at the same time.
Great.
I remember talking to multiple people about veteran disability exams.
Right.
And there just wasn't much opportunity in Michigan.
Sure.
I got myself on some lists. I even signed up for the SEEK,
sure.
the Medical Legal Directory. Yep. And I got a couple of hits, and by hits, I mean, some people reached out to me to, be a medical legal expert. And the funny thing is I didn't have the space for it at the time. So I came up with a rate sheet, and I just highballed them, because you taught me, if you don't ask, you don't know. And I was like, if they accept this, I'm just going to make space for it. Like, fine.
Beautiful.
But my time was worth something. So,
yes.
And that didn't work out either,
okay.
but
okay.
It's fine.
Okay. I'm loving you're taking me on this journey. I don't always know exactly where alumni go or how they arrive, where they eventually arrive. But okay, so we did some of the medically assisted treatment. That's the Suboxone prescribing, which is done virtually. And then you were, making connections, started exploring expert witness work, whether, nothing at the time, you didn't pick up any work at the time, but it's an option. You now have a rate sheet, which in other episodes, I'll go deeper into expert witness work and how I think I'm a big proponent for almost all physicians 3 to 5 years out of training to at least start exploring in terms of it's not always malpractice. In fact, less than half of the cases I've ever done have been about physician malpractice. So, but that's another episode. So, okay. So you also mentioned that you started taking aesthetics courses. So what did that look like? I assume, none of us, I'll say briefly, when I was told over by a family friend at a dinner party that any physician of any specialty could be involved in the aesthetics world and inject Botox, dermal fillers, all of the other things that go into the med spa world. And my first thought was, I'm not dermatology or plastics. How could I do that? I'm a pediatrician. And this family friend who was a surgeon actually said to me, don't you do spinal taps in babies? You know how to I suture heads and faces. I was working in a PDR at the time. And he said, you do harder things every day. We all do. You can do this. And he was right. So that's a little bit about how I started my own aesthetics journey back in 2018. But tell me about kind of how you got your first courses and what that felt like.
So I signed up for a course in Chicago, got me an excuse to go back to Chicago
Nice.
and hang out with some friends. And it was a weekend course. I mean, one day we learned about Botox, we did some models. The next day we learned about fillers, we did some models. by all means, there was no way I was going to go inject people after that course, but it was a great foundation. When people ask me how to start, I do think that classes like that are necessary.
Yes.
You need that kind of very basic intro to the field. I got to inject my first lips that day.
Nice.
Like, it was fun. It was a great weekend. And then I came back, and it was, again, just talking to people, reaching out to the reps, like the Botox reps and the filler reps, and getting free trainings out of them or free products so that I could practice. And so at that point, I think I had just started practicing on friends and family. Mostly friends, like local friends who I injected in my kitchen. So that kind of was slowly starting to pick up. I was dabbling, but I quickly learned that you really can't dabble in aesthetic medicine. It's very hard to really make a profit. It's because there's so much overhead and there's so much learning. So I'm putting so much time and energy into, watching videos. I did some private trainings, which I think were the most beneficial.
Nice.
And, I quickly realized I needed to start to either invest in it in terms of time and money, or let it go, because it was taking up too much time, and I didn't have a plan. So I ended up kind of moving forward with it. I started my own business. I called it Rejuvenate and Glow Skincare. It's my initials, RGS.
Nice.
And I got my cousin, who's a graphic designer, artist, did my logo for me. He created a logo package. I had no idea what a logo package was at the time. He got on the phone and taught me how to use the logo package. And I created a website on GoDaddy, and I started taking a little bit more than just friends and family. So friends of friends. And I was still in my kitchen. So it was super awkward because I had to clean up my house every single time somebody was coming over to get injected. But
Yes.
This is how I build my skills
Exactly.
and confidence. And I even had trainings in my, kitchen.
I love your kitchen.
So,
Your kitchen,
and then
multi-purpose.
Yeah. Yes. And then I reached out to a local spa owner, not a hair salon owner. And she was a friend of mine. I had kind of seen her business grow when, from the moment that I moved here. She was the first kind of business owner, and it was a brand new business. So I watched her grow. So I reached out to her, and she helped me a little bit from business advice, and also lent me some space that I did a training in her space. So it was just talking to people and getting things moving, and I just kept going. And in February of 23, so we're only a year out from, my initial training, February of 23, I walked into Aura Health and Spa. It was a brand new spa in the area. It's 2 blocks away from my house. And I walked in and I said, "Hey, do you guys need an injector?" They had been open since September of 2022. So very new in the Plymouth area. And they were really excited. They didn't have an injector. So long story short, I ended up renting a room within Aura Health and Spa. And so I ran my own business, Rejuvenate and Glow Skincare, inside of Aura Health and Spa.
Understood.
And then I did that until December 1st, when I became owner of Aura Health and Spa.
Oh my God.
So I skipped a lot in between. I had a great relationship with the owner,
Yes.
and things were not working out, as he had envisioned it.
Okay.
And in sometime in the fall, we started talking about it and making the transition, and here we are.
Wow. Congratulations. I will say
Thank
I of course, follow your social media, your Rejuvenate and Glow Skincare page. And I saw about a month or so ago when you posted that or maybe a little longer, that you were now owner. I thought, oh my goodness, it looks like you had acquired something else. Anyway, that's when I knew I needed to reconnect and get more of this incredible journey that I am incredibly proud of you. Not that you need my pride, but I am so proud because this is, I know that where you are now, it sounds like you and like so many of us physicians, it seems so far away. I know that there are physicians listening to you and your story, and you certainly have described those, years of young parenthood and moving around for your husband's job and working full time and having to go down. But where you've arrived at this point now is, I don't want people to think it just ever arrived or just happened. You put so much work and time and space, and you took chances. You really did. And that's a phenomenal thing. So hats off to you. Cheers to you. You did the thing. You took each step along the way. And that is remarkable. So tell me about your services. Tell me about Aura Spa. What is it like there?
So I still have my injectables, which I do. What we're starting to do is trying to merge the two businesses. So Aura Health and Spa originally had chemical peels, laser hair removal, hydrofacial, a lot of the esthetician services. There was also nutrition and weight loss piece. So the only piece they were really missing was the injectables piece, which I brought to the table. So now we're trying to take these two businesses and combine them. So we've kind of leaned out in terms of staff, and we're trying to grow a team that has really just a team mentality and a holistic growth mindset. And so we're going to as a team, we're going to rebrand because we're just new. And I think it's going to be good for just the morale of our team to rebrand, have a grand reopening in the spring. We're still going to be Aura Health and Spa. Maybe some colors will change. Maybe the logo will change. And we're going to merge our websites.
Nice.
So a lot of this, there's been a lot of brand confusion and a lot
Sure.
of just,
Sure.
and I'm making a lot of little like foundational changes, not little, some big foundational changes. We're changing our medical record system and making it more, I want the med spa feel, but I don't necessarily want the medical office feel.
Yes.
I want the spa feel.
Yes.
So we're all working together to kind of make it happen. So we have this little nugget that we're ready to grow.
Congratulations. So. That's fantastic. I want to be clear for our listeners. You now are the owner, it sounds like, of your second business, right? You founded your first business, and now you're owning the second business. And I think I know the answer, but did you go and get an MBA to be able to do this?
Oh gosh, I feel like I have, but it's literally like drinking from a fire hydrant. Yeah. I cannot tell you how much time I have invested in learning business.
Yes.
In fact, I hired a business consultant because I can't do it all.
That's right.
I need to learn my craft.
Yes.
I need to make sure I'm good at what I do, because no one's going to come to the spa if I'm not good at what I do. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure that the day-to-day is running well, and I want to make sure, at some point we're profitable.
Right.
So, and I don't have an MBA, and I'm not going to pretend like I do. So after a lot of research and doing things on my own, I've realized that outsourcing, while it's an incredible investment up front, mm-hmm. is going to pay off, I think, in the long run. So I've hired a business consultant. I've hired someone I did my own website with Rejuvenate and Glow. I've hired someone to do our website and do it right. And I've hired someone to rebrand us.
Yes.
So lots of things, I'm outsourcing a lot of things, but it's also giving me the space to do what I do best and be a doctor and inject and,
yes.
Be a mom too.
Oh, yes. Can't forget that. How old are the kids now?
They're 10, 8, and 6.
Okay. All right. I see their photos too. They're beautiful family. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you don't have an MBA, and I only said that part because so many of us physicians, our language is education and degrees, and we don't feel like we are legitimate or validated in pursuing new ventures like yours until we have that official school training and a degree behind us. But what you have described is you are brilliant, as I'll say all physicians are, in that you're able to learn and and figure out what you need to be doing along the way. And the most mature, and I think the smartest part about that was at the point where you said, you know what? I can hire someone to do this job. I know what I'm good at. I know my skill set. I know what brings people into the door. I can hire people behind the scenes to do those other things. It's so important. You know, I think in residency, we're taught to do everything. We are taught that we're doing all the clerical work. We're doing the paperwork. We're seeing the patients. We're organizing care. We're admitting. We're talking to the nurses and to the family. And so we as physicians carry that into our attending career. And we have that feeling that any venture, we have to really be a part of every aspect of it. But when you get to a place like you are, I think you recognized that very smart and mature decision is that, no, I know what I'm good at, and I can hire people who can assist me doing what they are good at. So that was phenomenal. Thank you for describing that.
Thank you. I think part of what goes along with that is something that you mentioned earlier, is at the risk. Like I am taking big risks now. Like I started with little risks,
That's right.
and now I'm taking big risks, but they're calculated risks.
Yes, they are.
And I'm putting all my eggs in the basket and gonna see what comes up.
It'll be a beautiful omelet. I'm telling you now, it'll be great. But I mean, you're taking risks. What you're doing is you've proven to yourself every risk you've taken has paid off. You know, maybe we haven't gotten into, of course, every part of your journey, but for what you've described, the 40,000 foot view is you took a small risk, it paid off. You took another small risk, it paid off. A slightly bigger risk, oh look, you paid off, because I think at the end of the day, you've learned to trust yourself. You've learned that you're the magic sauce, and guess what? You can make those calculated decisions, and they pay off. Which for so many physicians, that's simply not our personalities, right? We're risk averse.
No.
We want the guaranteed surefire thing. We want to guarantee our success. We don't want to even leave the starting blocks until we can see the finish line. We want to see that every part is laid out perfectly. And that works for clinical medicine. That's what we did as pre-meds and medical students and residents and fellows and attendings, right? That laid out path was right there for us. But when you're trying new things, and particularly when you're creating your own custom career, which only you can do, there is, as you described, some risk. And I use risk with a lowercase r, because I don't believe it actually is a risk. It is. I know it is. You're putting so much time and money of an investment, but you are also, I can't help but believe fully in you. So from where I'm sitting, I know that if it's nothing, it's a learning experience, but it will ultimately be everything and will pay off in dividends. Truly.
And then this is completely unsolicited. I want all the listeners to know this, but I do think a big part in the change and shift in my mentality was your course. I cannot stress that enough. I was so excited, overjoyed when you asked me to be on this podcast, because I'm telling you, like, I have quoted you a million times in the last 2 years, to friends, to family. When people have asked me about my journey, it all starts at Doctoring Differently, which I swear this is unsolicited to all those listeners out there.
It is. But I truly thank you. I mean, I presented the information, but to hear that people have picked it up, I mean, I really am so grateful for what I do, and that I took this chance, even creating this platform, because I feel like I have the absolute best job in the world, watching doctors do what they love, reclaim their careers and their lives and their families, and to be able to, it sounds like you're creating a life where you can be as present for your children as you need to be, as you want to be, which may have not always been the case in your full-time clinical career. By the way, are you still practicing clinically at all in the emergency department?
Actually, I worked last night.
Okay.
So I'm post-night shift.
Beautiful.
So the whole acquisition of Aura happened quite quickly. And so at that time I was still working, 70% or whatever. And my schedule was out through February. or through January. So I've given away a bunch of shifts. I'm balancing it. I work only nights. My husband works from home and is extremely supportive, and helpful. So, it's been a lot. I'm burning, the candle on both ends right now. February, I am down to PRN. So I give
Ooh.
them my availability, and if they can give it to me, great. If they can't, the downside is I don't get any shifts. But March, I took the month off. So no shifts in March,
Yes.
which I'm super excited about. April, May, I don't know. I haven't, I do probably plan to do a few shifts a month.
Yes.
I never want to feel like I, can't go back or, I will say when I have the space away, I do like to go. That's my family, like the ER is my family. I've
Sure.
been in it for this particular ER for about 6 years, but in general, that world is very like home-like to me. So while it was draining my every last ounce of compassion and whatever, it feels like home. So I like going back there.
Good,
Um,
good. Oh, great. I thank you for saying that part. Again, so many physicians, you probably were there. I know I was, where it's, even the vision of, what do you mean I don't have shifts or a guaranteed thing, revenue income, say in April or May or June. I think that you're at a place now that you've recognized, wait, okay, I have multiple streams here. There are multiple things I can do. If I don't have, if I'm not picking up shifts in the ER, well, I can potentially do, Suboxone prescribing. I'm making this up, but you have as many,
Yeah.
you can of course pick up, do more advertising and get more clients and patients into the spa. You have a number of different things. And I recognize, you're a few years into your journey, as am I. You built one thing at a time, which is also an important part of all of our journeys. And that I know when I talk to physicians, they're very overwhelmed when I say all of the different things I have done and can't do. But I always want them to make sure that they know, listen, I rolled in one thing at a time. It started with being per diem. And then it started here. I picked up this along the way. A year later, I started that. And now I'm at a place where it's like, well, yes, I know how to generate income if I want to take a month off or 3 months off or a summer off. I know how to maybe make a lot of money before I leave and make it as much when I get back as well. So I love that, you're, as you said very casually, I'm not sure about April or May yet. And it's just like, yeah. Because guess what? You are a physician. You'll always be able to generate income. And let me tell you, I'm sure they will be asking you to pick up shifts. So I am not worried. And for all of our listeners, I just want you to know there is no limit to the number of per diem contracts that you can have. So if you are considering going per diem, and maybe that is a thought in your mind of, okay, but if I go per diem, what happens if I can't get shifts? First of all, every hospital and almost every department is happy to have per diem physicians on the Rolodex. That's an older term for you younger people, but in their contacts list, I'll say there are always physicians who need to take breaks, who are going on leave, who are going on vacation, who are going on maternity. So you always have that. Plus you can have contracts with multiple hospitals and multiple medical centers in a community. There is absolutely no limit. So maybe one hospital doesn't need any per diem coverage this month. I guarantee you another will. So you cast a wide net, and have multiple per diem contracts if you want. Okay, Dr. Reema, this has been just the most wonderful conversation. I so appreciate you joining me, giving me the rundown, catching me up on your tremendous growth and career in the med spa and aesthetic space as an emergency physician. What would you say to someone, let's see, I know I met you January of 2022. Say I was, you're speaking to yourself or to another physician somewhere where you were, say, December of 2021, or a physician who's in full-time clinical medicine, kind of curious about the world outside of it. What advice would you give?
My favorite thing that I've learned in the last 2 years is just talk to people, talk to everyone, reach out to people on LinkedIn, talk to your neighbors, tell them what you're going through, see what they're going through. You never know how you can connect or, build, upon relationships that you already have. So I really think talking to people has gotten me really where I am, like being in the right place at the right time,
right.
because I've put myself in so many different places at the same time. So it's been an amazing journey.
Excellent, excellent. That's my favorite advice. Just have as many conversations as possible. I will say I felt validated in the space early in my career after leaving full-time clinical medicine, and I felt that physicians were overwhelmingly generous with their knowledge in the med spa space, in the veteran disability space, in the expert witness space. I truly, I think we are so used to holding our cards close to our chest, and we don't want people to know, even other physicians, we don't really share like that in our careers. And I really did feel early. So that's why I want to be as generous with my knowledge and the things that I know. And I can already tell, if a younger physician was going to ask you about med spa work, you would be as generous as well. So I'm so glad. Yes, let's all be talking to each other, pick up the phone, reconnect with med school classmates, co-residents, co-fellows, colleagues that you work with, and share your experiences. Again, if you're unhappy, you don't have to suffer in silence. Start talking to other doctors, and you never really know where you will end up. All right, I ask all of my guests at the end. I want to ask a closing question. And that question is, did this present form of your career, where you are, did it happen by accident, or did it fall into your lap? Did you have to take some action to create it or to make it happen?
I think I definitely had to take some action.
Yeah.
I needed that. I had that breaking point, and it's multiple actions, action after action that got me to where I am. So
action after action.
Start with one step,
Just the one. Thank you, Dr. Reema, for joining me today. Where can people find you if they want to look at your your med spa work or your website?
So we are in the process of merging these websites.
Okay.
So we have two websites. www.myauraspa.com is the main Aura website, and then www.rejuvenateandglowskincare.com. We're both on Instagram, and then I believe when we merge, I don't know if we're going to have a whole new site but it'll be all over. We're gonna do it up big when we for the grand reopening.
I cannot wait. Tag me in one post so I can retag.
Absolutely.
And I will make sure our viewers and listeners know. Thank you so much for joining me today, and best wishes with all of your success. Wishing you the absolute best.
Thank you. Same to you.